and that is a tendency when things aren't going our way, we have a tendency to find fault, find blame anywhere else except for home. We are Saints in the South, your source for gospel growth and good times. All right, welcome everyone. Episode 127. We are Saints in the South. Kenny, Marcus, and myself, Jackson.
Oh yeah.
We got some good things to discuss today.
Man.
So it's a little different in that the last several episodes we've covered a whole bunch of chapters. Lots of chapters. This time we've only got 3 chapters,
right?
To cover, and I think Marcus had made the comment. Didn't necessarily realize that there was so little written about Elijah, but that little bit, boy, it's pretty impactful.
Yeah. There's a lot there. There's a lot there.
Yeah. So 1 Kings chapter 17 through 19, and the title is "If the Lord be God, Follow Him." And just to kind of start out, Elijah, or whoever decides to introduce Elijah, who's writing Kings anyway? Does anybody know? It's not that big a deal.
I don't know.
I don't know either. Honestly,
I will look as you talk.
Okay, so verse 1. I read verse 1 when I started reading, and then I had to go. I'm like, my goodness, man, this is quite an introduction to Elijah. I had to go back a few chapters. I'm like, let me see if there's any other mention of Elijah anywhere, and there's not. But verse 1, 17:1, and Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, as the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. So what an introduction to Elijah. He cuts off the heavens from any rain. Or cuts the earth off from any rain. He's like, all right, let's go. That's right. Yep.
When they talk about his sealing power, I mean, he sealed the heavens, man.
That's right.
He's like, I cut it off. I'll cut it off right now. I could say that no one knows really who wrote Kings. They just know that the state chronicles were not. Let's see. I'm trying to see. It was under the directions of the kings of Israel. So somebody wrote it.
Just some
we don't
historians.
Really
sure it's evidently somebody's job.
Yeah,
somebody's assignment. Stuff,
right.
So. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, we start off. Basically, the kingdom, the children of Israel, everything's in disarray, right?
As usual.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's even worse now. The 10 tribes have separated themselves, right?
Right.
They've gone north, I guess.
They've gone to the Northlands.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's basically where Elijah's at. That's where he's sort of doing most of his work is up there.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And
the whole kingdom is separated into 2, kind of like the South seceding from the Union or something.
Yeah. That's true.
They're all like, nah, we're going to go do our own thing.
That's right. But go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, dive in here with just Elijah being the seal. This is the same Elijah that appeared to Joseph Smith in the Kirtland Temple. This is the Elijah that Malachi prophesied of, that would return in the last days, that would come before the day of the Lord, and as a matter of fact, he, so I'm not an expert on the Passover, but I do remember something about how I think they make a place at the table for Elijah every time they do the Passover or something. It's still expecting him to
return.
Because,
that's right.
Yeah. And we know that he actually did return already to restore those sealing powers. Those sealing powers, man. Listen to this. I thought this was very interesting in verse 1 right there in chapter 17, the very end where he says, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word.
Right.
This isn't, he's saying my word because this is his power. He has sealing power, obviously given to him from the Lord. But what I'm getting at is he has that power. He holds that power. He's not, it's not that he's telling the Lord to do it. he's actually doing it through him. I mean, the Lord's doing it through him because he holds that power.
Yeah.
He holds that priesthood power of sealing. And I thought that was very, very cool, man.
Yeah, I like the way that Elijah, one of the things that stands out to me about him is how much authority he speaks, with which he speaks.
Yes.
Like when he his faith, it's the prophets are human, they're fallible humans just like any of us. They have to receive revelation, and I'm sure they have to learn how to discern revelation just like all of us do. And just speaking with this, it reminds me there's several things in this lesson. There's at the beginning, number one, the way he makes statements with such authority, like he's just like flat out like, okay, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to rain. It's not going to, there's not going to be no moisture, no rain, no water until I say. Then when he goes, not a spoiler alert, but he goes to the widow, and he's like, can you give me some water? And she's like, sure. And he's like, while you're at it, give me something to eat. Like, I only have a little handful of meal and some oil, and I'm gonna fix that for me and my son, and then we're gonna die.
Right.
And he's like,
nothing else.
Okay, go ahead, fix me something to eat first, then. And and it's just like he's so confident. It reminds me. There's several instances here that reminded me of the my favorite, probably my all-time favorite church video is Treasure in Heaven, the John Tanner story. There's the scene that I literally tear up every single time I watch it, and I'll see if I can even talk about it without getting choked up here, man, because it gets me. Like the scene where the missionaries are teaching John Tanner and his family. And they invite him to be baptized, and he's like, well, I can't be baptized because of this leg, and dude, gosh, I'm getting chills right now just talking about it. It gets me so much every time. And when the missionary looks at it, the missionary doesn't say, well, like, I tell you, Brother Tanner, I know the Lord wants you to be baptized, so we're going to pray for you, or we're going to give you a blessing. No, he didn't say that. Like he looked him square in the eye, said, John Tanner, do you have faith sufficient to be healed? And he's like, whoa, kind of thing. He's taken aback, and he's like, well, yeah, I think I do. He says a few more things, and then he looks him square in the eye and says, John Tanner, by the authority of Jesus Christ, I command you to stand up and walk. And man, see, I can probably hear my voice right now. It gets me so much because that moment, like the faith, like I guess because I always struggle so much with like trying to discern what I feel like is personal revelation versus my own feelings or my own thoughts. And even if I'm giving a blessing, I try so hard to get out of the way, because it's like there's so much, I don't want to be inserting myself into things, like, because I'm always questioning that, like, is this me? Is this the Lord?
Right.
Is this the Spirit talking to me, or is this my own self? Is this my own little voice trying to tell me what I want to hear or what I want to say? And, when that missionary just like, because I can't imagine the confidence it would take to be able to look somebody in the eye in that moment and say, I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to stand up and walk. Because what would happen if he didn't get up and walk in that moment? Oh, he would have just been gone. Like he had to be 100% absolutely sure that like the Lord is about to work a miracle through me. I'm telling you right now, get up and walk. And this is like Elijah has this kind of faith in his own, ability to hear the Lord and to, be his mouthpiece. He's like, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to rain, period. The end. He's telling the woman like, yeah, okay, you and your son are about to die because you're starving. Okay, just go ahead and fix me something to eat. It'll be all right. He's so confident. He knows, he absolutely is so sure of himself as far as, the revelation he's receiving and the power with which he speaks.
So Kenny, on that, you talk about, trying not to get in the way, right, of, giving priesthood blessings and things like that, but we know from the scripture, because I think about this as well. We know from the scriptures, it stated that the Lord, and I wish I had some, this is just something I think I don't have a specific scripture in mind, but the Lord will alter his course or what he's doing because of the faith of the people or the individual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So sometimes we may want something so bad, right? And it be righteous. Obviously it has to be righteous. Right.
Yeah, that's the key.
But we can have so much faith that it will come to pass and the Lord will bless it because of the faith, not is that maybe not necessarily, like, I guess my question is, was it not necessarily in the Lord's plan for something to happen for John Tanner to be healed, but because of the amount of faith in that room, it was done.
Yeah.
And the same thing with Elijah.
Yeah. That I like.
We don't know though. It's like, because there's another movie. Is he the movie Charlie?
Well,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where, like,
that's
he gives her that blessing that she's going to be healed, and she's not healed, and it's like, man, it just shakes him to the core, and that's how it is sometimes. Sometimes we might want something, we might have all the faith in the world, but sometimes that's just not the Lord's plan. And there are times where he might say, look, I'm sorry, but this isn't what's going to happen. And no matter how much faith we have, no matter how bad we want it, there are times where we're not going to get our way, because the Lord in his wisdom knows what's best, and sometimes, and there are times, like you said, where the Lord will, according to our faith, bless us. He might change his course a little bit, say, okay, there's a lot of faith here, and bless us, but still not always the case.
No, it's not. I think it does. It definitely goes to show that that our faith does matter.
Absolutely.
As we saw with this widow here, she put forth the faith that she was going to feed Elijah first. Mm-hmm. It was done, and then ultimately her son, ends up getting sick, and I guess officially it passes away.
Yeah,
right.
Basically.
And then Elijah blesses him.
There's a lot going on there, because Elijah is the one that called down this famine and this drought. Right. He's the one, but yet he suffers too. He has to go hide himself in a cave, and he has to be fed by the Lord, and he has to be taken care of by the Lord. And you would think, well, he's the one that did this. Can't he just go off somewhere and just have a big old room full of food and he's cool? But he had to actually suffer. Not only, but the Lord did take care of him, but then it ran out. Right. So he had to go find more. I mean, it's just it. So it gets you thinking. You go, wait a minute. He's super righteous. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do, and yet he's going to suffer.
He's willing to. That's right.
Yeah. And it's like, so that makes me go, oh, wait, being righteous doesn't equal no suffering. It's like, it doesn't mean that we're exempt from suffering if we're doing everything right and we know that we're doing the Lord's will. It doesn't matter as far as it makes you realize that suffering and going through trials is necessary, I guess is what I'm getting at. Yeah. So there's no avoidance of those things. I mean, there's obviously things that you can avoid, certain circumstances and things of trials that you don't want to go through, drug addiction or something like that. I don't want to go out and experiment with drugs. I mean, those are trials that I'm creating that's going to be rough, but trials will come in many different ways. Even when we think we're doing everything right and we're great, but he had to suffer. He had to go through all this, and it's crazy that he sent him to a widow, because a widow, what's she going to do? There's no man there to provide. Yeah. This is ancient Israel. So that's the way it worked.
He could have sent him to a rich man. He could have found somebody with lots of resources. Like, go to this person in town. He's wealthy. He has resources. He'll take care of you. But no, that's not what he did.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of the widow now. The widow is probably like a righteous person. And, we don't really know a lot about her up to that point, but we know that she does recognize the Lord when she sees. I think a lot of people, I'll put it like this. I think the Israelites at this point was really like in limbo. They were like, okay, now what actually Elijah does bring that out. And he was like, who are you going to choose? I mean, what you going to do? Yeah. Y'all both kind of walking the line in between these gods of, what's his name? Baal or whatever. Yeah. And Jehovah, what are you going to do? Half of y'all are 1 foot over here and 1 foot over here. And so she might have been that way too, but she did recognize as soon as all these things happening, she was like, okay, you're a prophet of the Lord. You are, you're the Lord's witness and all these things in the prophet. But it's just crazy to me to think that these people were suffering, but yet they're trying to do what's right. And the prophet himself suffers right along. He's not exempt just because he's the prophet. And so just as Jesus Christ wasn't exempt from his temptations and things that he had to go through. So.
That's right. I think in the Come Follow Me lesson, it brings out that even though that as a whole, the people were experiencing lots of wickedness, yes, when you as a whole, but when you get down to individuals,
yes,
there were several individuals there that were having their personal spiritual experiences and recognizing the hand of the Lord in their lives and everything. So,
yep.
Yeah, that's one of the main takeaways from this whole lesson is that it's possible to be righteous, even if you're surrounded by wickedness, even if you're in the minority. You can
right
have that faith.
And then she does get blessed. The barrel starts making food, and the waters, everything's great. And then her son dies, gets sick and die. And she even says, I love that when she said in verse 20, and I'm sorry, where is no, in verse 18, it said, she said to Elijah, she said unto Elijah, what have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? As if, are you a man of God? I mean, because she has seen the miracle of the food and all, but it says, art thou coming to me to call my sin to remembrance and to slay my son? I mean, it was more, it wasn't really criticism. It was like, it was, I think in the Institute manual, it says it was more of a plea for help. She said, I thought sheltering, in other words, as we would hear it would be, I thought sheltering a prophet would bring blessings and protection. Instead, tragedy has struck my home.
Right. Yeah.
And so,
oh, I'm sure she was angry too. I mean, who wouldn't be? Yeah.
But ultimately
my son just died.
Ultimately she was blessed. Her son was raised up, and that may not be the case with everything, but ultimately that son would have been raised up, and it might have took longer. It would have been, later on, because of the plan of salvation and such. But I think that's just what we got to understand. Just because, I mean, we could be running on all cylinders, man, and just really getting it and doing great in our calling and loving the Lord and reading scriptures every day and doing everything the prophets asked us to do, and tragedy can strike, and we can run out of food. We can, but that's the test though. The Lord doesn't just say, okay, congratulations, you're doing great, here's your reward. He goes, you know what? You're doing great. You're at your strongest right now. Let's put a little test on you. Let's see if it's a true strength or not, Right. And I've seen a lot of people fall, man, people that's lost their children. There was an instance in the ward that I used to attend. It was very close in time where one family lost their son, same age. I think he was around 12 or so. And another family within months lost their son about the same age. They were both in the same ward. One family stayed close to the gospel and faithful and kept going. The other family never saw him again, never came back to church when their son died. And they were both strong families. And wow. So it's just different circumstances. How do you take that trial? How strong truly, how converted truly are you?
So it sounds like that family was potentially placing blame, right?
Yeah.
On the Lord or somewhere else.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which leads us into in chapter 18 in verse chapter 18 verse 17, when Ahab, the king,
yes,
he wants to meet right with Elijah. And he says, and it came to pass when Ahab saw Elijah that Ahab said unto him, art thou he that troubleth Israel? And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, and that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and thou hast followed Baal. So he's saying he's placing blame.
Aren't you the one that's causing all these problems?
You're the one that's sealed.
You're the one bringing this misery.
That's
exactly.
Right. Yeah. So and that is a tendency when things aren't going our way. We have a tendency to find fault, find blame anywhere else except for home or, within ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's ultimately Ahab's fault, the reason they were suffering. I mean, Elijah didn't do this of his own power and say, I'm putting, I mean, this is through, he was being an agent. He was being an instrument in the Lord's hands, and really it's Ahab's fault. I mean, not just his fault, but his wife, honestly, I would think his wife more than him. Jezebel was actually, it sounds like she was the one running things.
That's right. Yeah.
And not to take any kind of guilt away from Ahab. He was part of it too, but man, what a great,
it's interesting reading.
Yeah. Keep
just reading this. I was just gonna say real quick that it's easy to see how, the name Jezebel has become a slur, like, you Jezebel,
and rightfully so.
Jezebel was a bad person. Like, she was horrible.
Yes,
she was awful.
I had my favorite companion on my mission. His middle name was Jedediah. Oh, yeah. And I would call him Jezebel.
Jedediah.
Not that he really, I
bet he loved that.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Jedediah, how about Obadiah? Which by the way, they're not sure if this is the same Obadiah that the book Obadiah in the Old Testament. But
Okefenokee Swamp Obadiah.
Yeah, Obadiah. Yeah, exactly. I thought of that too. The thing is Obadiah is kind of like the executive secretary of Ahab. I mean, that's why Elijah approached him and said, "Hey, get a meeting, bring it up." Right. Well, the reason I found out as I was reading was that Obadiah was scared to go back and tell the king that he wanted to meet, because Ahab had been searching for Elijah all this time, and every time someone would say, "Hey, Elijah's over at such and such place, he's over there," and when Ahab went to find him and he wasn't there, he was already gone, he would kill that person that said that he was there. You know what I mean? The messenger. He would kill the messenger.
Old Testament is just ruthless, man.
Yeah, and so that's why Obadiah was like, "You want me to go tell him that you're here, and then he's going to kill me because you're going to go, you're going to leave." And so that's why he told him, Elijah told him, said, "I will be here, I will not leave."
He's like, "No, son, I'm not going anywhere."
He said, "I'm not going."
Tell him.
I mean, Elijah was he didn't dread it, man.
Well, he
knew what was going down.
He straight up issues a challenge to the prophets.
What
of Baal,
a challenge,
right? He's bring all your prophets. Get them all over here.
It's one versus 850.
That's right.
It was 450 prophets of Baal and 400 of Jezebel's, the female counterparts of them, and 850 versus one.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's have a contest.
Let's do it.
Let's see whose God is real. I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I know. This has got to be one of the coolest stories of the Old Testament.
Absolutely.
You talk about a challenge. So throwing down the gauntlet. He's like, "Come on!" And then and I love how it's funny. I was messing with my wife. I was, because she doesn't like people being negative or snarky. Like if they're on Facebook or something, she doesn't. Right. She gets mad at me. I do that sometimes too. That's another story. But I was like, you would not have liked Elijah. He was so snarky. He was he was like, "Talk louder. Your God's probably
I'm sure he's
maybe he's off hunting.
He's probably sleeping. He's probably sleeping. Y'all keep going." He's just taunting them, dude, and they go crazy. They get fanatic. They start cutting themselves open, and spilling their own blood and dancing around and going crazy. Dude, he was just like, "You guys are idiots." I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, look at the idiot people here.
I can see him. Listen. Okay, put this in modern time. I can see him pulling up a lounge chair, fixing himself a glass of lemonade, right, and just kind of sipping on it and watching all this stuff go on. Like, okay, try again. Try again.
But yeah, he was taunting them, man. He was like, "Hey, if that's your true God, I'm sure he's listening. He'll get to you. He'll get to you eventually." But
so with that, when I see things like this and thinking back to Moses, because my natural tendency is to take the humble road, right? To not create contention, not to get up in somebody's face, right? Kind of like Megan, right? I'm going to go the opposite. Now I'll
take the high road. Yeah,
I take the high road. Now, honestly speaking, I wish I had a little bit more of that contention in me. I really do. Yeah. So sometimes I really do. But I think it's necessary sometimes.
A little more fire.
A little more fire. A little bit more get up in your face, so to speak. So.
I think
I need a little bit less sometimes.
I would say
let's trade a little bit.
Okay, you can have some of mine.
Go ahead, Mark.
And I want to read this verse real quick before we move on, just because I love this. I want to read it. Verse 27. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah mocked them and said, "Cry aloud, for he is a god. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, which is hunting, or he is journeying, or peradventure he sleepeth and must be awakened."
I
love that verse.
Yeah, I know.
He's so sarcastic.
You see these people in verse 21. This is the verse. It says, "Elijah came into all the people and said, How long halt ye between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him." And the people didn't say anything. it explained it so well, because I see it today. There's a lot of this going on today. They were torn. The people were torn. The Israelites especially were torn with, either they didn't really want to follow Jehovah because it's hard. You know what I mean? You got to sacrifice. It's tough. But then again, they kind of didn't know. They didn't really want to follow the king and queen with their gods, because it was kind of like, well, we're kind of being pressured to do that. That's like the religious state. We're getting kind of shoehorned into this. And so they were just sort of, like, what do we do? Do we do anything? And so that's why he was like, hey, pick it, choose it. And today, what are you going to do?
Another side to that coin, though. There's another thing that they were doing, which is similar to what what happened in Rome, what the Romans did. Anytime there's a situation where you have a people that has a pantheon of gods, usually what starts that trend, how that develops in a culture is a initial desire for inclusivity. It's something that it starts out with good intentions. People want to, they don't want to shun people. They don't want to be they don't want to be bigoted. They want to be, and it makes sense. People are, people want to be, for the most part, want to be cool. They want to get along with people, and so these people, they were like, okay, we got Jehovah, we got Baal over here. That's okay. That's cool. We can let him in, and especially like in Rome, people would, like, if a people were conquered and they had a different god, rather than reject their god, they'd say, okay, bring him on, man. We got another god now. We got 839 gods now. Heck yeah. The more the better, the more the merrier. Bring them on, man. It's just like, everybody's welcome here. Everybody's okay. Everybody's beliefs are equal. Nothing. There's this kind of lukewarmness, and so these people were like, they were like, okay, yeah, Baal, that's cool, yeah,
right. Well, we know that
the more the things change, the more they stay the same, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
I mean, and we know the story. You think, why is he pouring all this water? Well, he's trying to show how cool the Lord, the Lord can quench anything. But I found out too, reading the Institute manual. I love the Institute manual. I'm going to read it all the time. But it was the priest of Baal was using trickery,
trying to rig it.
Whenever they would have fire. They had this little thing invented where they could shoot fire up and make it look like, and so he was like, you know what, I'm going to douse this thing with water, so much water, there's going to be water standing around it, so I can't be doing anything no trickery here. And that was really for their benefit more than even the people's. It was for the priests, or these priests and these prophets, of Baal. And so he they did that to show that. And of course the people also was like, wow, so they knew without a doubt. And man, that fire come down. It weren't just regular fire.
No,
I mean, this thing ate up the rocks, the dust, the
water,
the water licked it up. So this was the real deal. This wasn't like a little campfire looking thing. This is like, whoa, wait a minute. This is the real power. This is real power.
Can y'all imagine having that much faith?
Man, I'm telling you.
I mean, Elijah was the man.
I think it's because, and this is my opinion, I think it's because he knew that his will aligned with the Lord's will. It's like he had an unwavering faith that he knew that it did. Now, we go back to the Charlie story. We can't always heal people. We might feel that strongly to say, to heal this person. And the Lord says, no, it's not, but and so that can happen. But I think in this is, what is the word? What did D. Todd Christofferson? I think it was D. Todd Christofferson said that sometimes it's the exception and not the rule. So I think in this instance, this is a prophet of the Lord that needed to do a very big assignment to get these people on board. So he does allow some big things to happen. But Elijah knew that needed to happen. And so I think he was very bold about it, because he knew that the Lord needed to do something with these people.
Yeah, but basically it had come down to how wicked. I mean, they were extremely wicked, and it
was time to get them back on board.
That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. And I wonder if we'll see any of that in these last days. Things like that.
I thought the same thing. I thought the same thing. I really did. Last thing, in Kings 19, we talked about Jezebel. Jezebel finds out what happened. By the way, Elijah killed all these prophets. I mean, these quote unquote prophets, priests. They slayed all of them. They're
right.
gone. You know, and
another example of Old Testament brutality.
That's right.
Yeah,
it's not like they've been shamed and that's sufficient. It's like, no, we're gonna drag them down to the river and kill every last one of them.
I still have a hard time with that sometimes. I mean, that thou shalt not kill.
Well,
yeah,
I think killing of the spirits worse than the body. So I think these guys would have kept killing spirits. I mean, you know what I'm saying, as far as taking down people spiritually. So they had to stop.
I mean, I guess. I mean, I still believe in the death penalty now, you know, so I think it's justified for sure. So,
there's idiots out there. You let them loose or they get away, they're going to do bad things still. So you just got to end them. Anyway, so Jezebel wants to kill him. And so, of course, Elijah has to go hide. He has to run away. And it's crazy. He gets depressed. Honestly, he goes, he's in a cave. He says, and the Lord asked him, says, what doest thou here, Elijah? What are you doing? Like, what are you doing here? And he keeps saying that he's, you know, basically, he even says that, what did he say? He said, I'm no better than my fathers. He's like, in other words, these people aren't listening. These people, you know, and he's realizing, he said, these people just aren't getting it, man. I can't get anybody. No, it's just me. It's just me now. You know, he's probably feeling like Moroni did, you know, at the end.
Right.
You know, he's like, just me. And Moroni couldn't see everybody that would be converted because of him, you know, at the end of the Book of Mormon. But, you know, but he was like, it's just me and all this. But basically the Lord shows him, is like, no, there's like 7,000 people basically that still believe in you and are wanting to be, you know, they want to do what's right. And then so that kind of helps, you know, but we can get depressed even when we've done such great things in the past. We can still get down on ourselves. We can still, it's going to happen, but the Lord is always there to help us. So anyway, he goes and he hides, but then basically he meets up with I keep not Elias. What's
Elisha?
Elisha. Man, too many Ellie's. Too many Ellie's. I don't know. He meets up with him, and Elisha's got money, apparently, because he's got all these oxen, he's got all this stuff, and basically in a nutshell, in a nutshell, he is the son of Snapchat. I'm sorry, Shaphat. It looks like Snap. Every time I see it, it's like Snapchat. Wait, what? I guarantee you wasn't the son of Snapchat. But he's totally opposite of that. And so, but he's out there plowing, and Elijah passed by him and cast his mantle upon him, which we understand in modern revelation, that's a robe. He puts his robe on him. Basically, this man is a good man. He's never bowed down to the gods of Baal. And the Lord says, this guy's honored his priesthood. He's never bowed a knee to these false gods. He's a great man. He's the next man in line to be the prophet. And that's what he done. There was no meeting. There was no like, hey man, I need to talk to you for a minute. Let's have an interview. It was basically Elijah come by, put his robe on him. And so Elijah knew immediately what that meant, which I would be like, what? You know, I've heard about you. How can I do what you've been doing there? Wow. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I think of Joshua too, after Moses. I mean, think about Elisha after Elijah. I mean, Elijah's fixing to ride off. Spoiler alert. Elijah's fixing to ride off in the
chariots of fire.
Chariots of fire, man. I mean, he's exiting with the big time exit here. Here comes Elijah thinking, what am I going to do? Elisha's like, man.
I think there's something you said a while ago, Marcus, that really, to me, like drives the whole point home of all this. The thing about Elijah was that he had aligned his will so closely with the will of God that he could act with confidence in this way. And like, that's why, like, when he went to Elisha, like you said, there was no interview. He chose Elisha the same way that the Savior himself chose his disciples. Basically, he just walked up to him and said,
that's right.
You're the guy. Come on. And they'd be like, whoa, wait a minute. And he's like, no, come on.
This is it.
This is how it is. And that's how Elijah he just went up to him and just put his robe on him and said, you're the next. And
like, and apparently
no
Elisha,
no question.
Apparently Elisha is the right man, because he goes, okay, kill all my oxen. Let's eat them. Let's burn all my equipment. I ain't worried about it. I'm going to be the prophet. He leaves the world behind so fast.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like immediately he's like, I'm done with all this. I don't care. I'm going to do this calling now. This is what the Lord's called me to. I'm leaving it behind. We see it today. We see it with general authorities today. You know, obviously, you know, we're talking two different levels, but it's the same concept. We think about missionaries that go on missions. They leave for 2 years. They leave the world behind. You know, it's not that they get rid of all their material possessions, but they do leave behind a lot of material things. And it's a sacrifice for the Lord. So Elisha's starting out pretty good. He's starting out really good.
Significant,
here, so.
Man. I think of the New Testament, the rich man that came to Jesus, and so apparently this was a righteous. He wasn't a bad guy. He was a really, really righteous, really good guy.
Yes.
And the Lord, he's like, what else do I need to do? I've done this and this and this and this. I'm faithful. And what Jesus say? He said, sell everything you have, get rid of all your riches, and give it to the poor, and come follow me. Right. And he was like, man, I can't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Really? Are you serious? I've worked hard for this. And it makes sense too. I mean, I wonder how I would react in that situation. Cause
Jesus is like, apparently you've never read about Elisha.
Yeah.
You haven't read those scriptures yet. What's going on?
Right. Wow. All right. Well, good stuff. Well, hey, everybody out there, until next time, y'all keep on striving.
Right. Keep on striving to bring your will in alignment with the will of God.
Exactly.
To the point where you can look at somebody and say, it's not going to rain.